Hello everyone, my name is Silvano and welcome to my channel, Silver Official. Berserk, without a doubt, is one of the most famous manga of all time. Berserk is also a series that experienced the most painful case to cause a series to undergo a hiatus. The author Kentaro Miura is died in 6th May 2021. That news makes a lot of people really sad because Kentaro Miura left Berserk in the unfinished state. And then, in the period where Berserk has no hope to continue, suddenly, there is a new information that say we will resume the serialization of Berserk. Based on that information alone, everyone in the manga community is so happy with Berserk's sudden continuation, and since then, waiting for the new chapter of Berserk to release. In the end, Berserk got a new 8 chapters, and in that span of 8 chapters, what Berserk gave to me is nothing but pain. Now what's that pain, you may ask? We will dive into that topic a lot further into this video. So without any further ado, let's dive into the topic. Every moment that makes Berserk is finally in the Fantasia arc. The story of Berserk is going towards the end. Because in the Fantasia arc, we finally get the moment that we waiting for a long time. And that is Casca that finally get back to normal, even though it's not full normal, but that moment is still worth celebrating. All of God's suffering and all of his hard work is finally get paid off with the recovery of Casca. All of the journey that Guts when he slowly meets a lot of new people that basically form his new band of Hulk with Black Swordsman Party. In all of Guts' journey where he is slowly but surely recovering from all of his trauma and trying to find a new happiness with that party, when time goes on, it really shows how close the relationship between all of the members of the Black Swordsman Party. And I just love to see Guts slowly starts blooming again, where he finally finds a trustworthy companion to accompany Guts in all of his journey. Guts finally will have a shining future. But then chapter 264 arrived that basically without we know, this suddenly makes everything wrong because Griffith's arrival, and that is what I meant with Berserk that is trying towards its ending. Casca has been recovered and become normal again. The first Guts objective has been completed. The reason of why Guts wandering around in this world is finally complete, meaning Guts has a time to enjoy his time to rest a little bit, and that is shown in this Fantasia arc. When I read the Fantasia arc, there is this kind of relief where Guts finally get his time to rest, but just like what I said before, the arrival of Griffith makes everything wrong, and in the chapter 365, the fall down began. So yeah, let's dive into the nothingness of chapter 365 and 366, because nothing really happens in those 2 chapters in the storytelling narrative. So there is a huge difference between chapter 364 and 365. There is a huge difference that the narrative from chapter 364 wants to tell, but then comparing it to the chapter 365 feels so different. The Griffith that I see in chapter 364 looks so innocent, with tears falling down from his eyes. And despite of how much I hate Griffith, and I saw Griffith like that, my heart is melting too. Because in that last page of 364, I saw redemption in those eyes. Like there is something that Griffiths want to tell that really is gonna satisfy myself and both fans. But then I saw Griffith in chapter 365 that looks cold, malevolent and terrifying. Like look at this picture side by side. You can see a big difference in the vibe and intention in those 2 chapters want to tell. But at the end of the day, I don't really mind that too much. The thing is, Berserk is finally come back, and that is a thing that we should celebrate. And then Guts versus Griffith and Zod, that we can't really call as a fight, since Griffith does nothing and still okay with no scratches at all. It sounds ridiculous at first, but then it makes sense because Guts is only a human. You really can't do much in front of Guts. So yeah, it makes sense, and without telling any word whatsoever, Griffith just took Casca away, and that is so fucking annoying. I hate chapter 367 with all of my heart. Like, Guts deserves to be happy. Casca is the only thing that makes Guts struggling, crawling on the ground and seeks for a bright future. Casca is the trigger, the only reason of why Guts started his journey even before Griffith's return to the mortal world. Guts never realized himself that he is just wandering around without knowing what his objective really is. Chapter 175 marked the beginning of something different in Guts. He wants to kill Griffith, but then he remembers his priorities, and that is protecting Casca. Guts managed to control himself, with him remembering what his priorities really is. And yeah, that is a powerful chapter in my opinion, and what's happening in chapter 367 is beyond my limit. That is why Berserk managed to broke me. When Guts finally will going towards a happy life with Casca's recovery, and despite all of that, Casca is still traumatized by Guts and can only talk to him without facing each other. Even when Guts finally achieve a happiness that we as a readers thought Guts finally achieve, there is still a big shadow that overwhelms both Guts and Casca, that prevents both of them to achieve a true happiness. But hey, this is still the happiest day that ever happened to Guts since forever. And when Griffith came out of nowhere and took Casca away, that is something unforgivable. And if there is still someone, a love person that still thinks that Griffith do nothing wrong, well, at least I respect that you are still insist on defending Guts. I don't know why or what do you see from Griffith that makes you want to defend this unforgivable villain. Anyway, I kind of hate about how they portray Guts in this moment, that the previous Guts that is in my opinion looks a lot tougher than what I see in this moment, where in the Eclipse and this version of Guts seems a little bit different. They kind of make Guts looks hopeless and just gave up on everything, something that we never really see from Guts until now, and I kind of hate that. Guts used to be a tough person that is trying his hardest to try and fight whatever that gets in his ways, but here it's just a little bit pathetic. Now I know maybe the reason is Guts' fear of losing Casca, and the moment that Guts finally encountered Griffith and couldn't do anything is maybe Guts' biggest disappointment and biggest L in his life. Everyone will fall into depression when a person just took a biggest L in his life, and I kind of understand about what Guts' mental health throughout Fantasia arc. He just didn't have a time to prepare himself for the wars, and that lack of preparation makes Guts feel that he is a failure. Guts is strong, we know, but Guts is still a human being. That is Guts' biggest weakness. That is just different when you compare him in front of Beast and a god. It's just so depressing when you look at the aftermath of this moment. A quick second before we dive into the last part of this video, I want to tell you that in time when I'm working on this video, I noticed and I know that the new chapter of Berserk has been dropped, and I decided that I don't include that new chapter in this video because when I look at the new chapters of Berserk, I think it only covers Griffith, and I don't really care about Griffith. I don't want to care about Griffith. What I want to focus in this video is only like the 7 chapters of the first batch of Berserk that managed to probe me. And let's dive into the last part of this video. The next thing I want to talk is the aftermath. And there is too much thing that's happening at that moment. It makes me need a little bit of understanding about what exactly is happening at that time. But the thing is, it just makes me sad when I see Guts feel so helpless and feel so weak. Bro, Guts just need a happiness. Is that too much of a thing to ask? Guts lying on the ground, unable to do anything and just sinks into his own death. It's so heartbreaking. I can't really watch that moment happening in my first time read. And another thing that I can't believe is happening at that time is Isma's disappearing. That is also so fucked up that makes me almost hate everything that the new chapters of Berserk gave to me. Ishidoro, the one and only that is forming a crucial relationship with Isma since the Ghost Ship chapter, because of some reason that I think is the calamity that Skull Knight mentioned is the trigger, and because of that, Mero can hold their body in the physical world for a long time as it really got poof, and that makes Ishidoro worthy of a title Guts Jr. Everything is so fucked up, and all makes me want a discontinuation of Berserk, because even though the story never gonna reach the end, the chapter 364 itself is a beautiful chapter, so beautiful that it makes me feel that it's okay if Berserk gonna end at that way. But then what's happening is the opposite. There are a continuation for sure, but the effect of the continuation is Berserk that once again is sinking into the depth of trauma and tragedy again, and I don't even know where the story of Berserk will go from chapter 361, what kind of direction, what kind of story that post-Mira of Berserk wants to tell, with the conclusion of Fantasia arc that is once again left the readers in a cliffhanger that enraged me even more. Who wants to see Griffith after all of that he's doing in the last 8 chapters? Just let me see gods, but what Berserk left to me is only gods falling to the floor and sinking into his own depth of hell, and that's pretty much how Berserk managed to broke me. And yeah, that is how this video about Berserk, and yeah, I just really want to talk about this for a long time, since forever, and finally this time is come, and everything just felt so good, and I'm finally able to talk about this in detail. And yeah, that's it for this video. See you in my next video. Bye bye.